Well, hello there. Welcome back to the morning show of yours truly, Dex the Algo Capitalist. And I hope you're having a wonderful day. And if you are having one of those wonderful days, it's time to rain on your parade. I'm so sorry I have to do that. But who would I be if I wasn't me? And of course, here on the morning show, we want to talk about things that are somewhat sensitive in nature and or uncomfortable because that's just what we do. If you are unaware of, or perhaps you've been hiding under a rock or in some cave somewhere, maybe you don't know about what's going on in the world. Maybe you are living somewhere outside of the United States of America. Maybe you don't know what's happening in the United States of America. Maybe you don't know that the United States of America as a country is now basically a failed state. It is a nation in collapse on many fronts, not just economically, financially, not just because it's the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, not just because we're having a breakdown of society in the United States of America, not just because of the rising rates of homelessness and drug addiction and mental illness. No, 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 not just because of all of those things, but it's because of actions that have been taken that no one wants to be held accountable for. Case in point, Dr. Anthony Fauci lied to the world on numerous occasions over the last 4 years. And has he been held accountable? No. If that were you or I, they would have threw us under the bus immediately. But because it's him and he has ties to the elites of the world who control the media, well, there you go. Sort of like on 9/11 when we had multiple failures at multiple levels of government. And instead of heads rolling, people were given promotions. That's right. People were given promotions from military individuals to civilian government workers. People were given promotions, congratulated for the utter epic failure on a mammoth scale, an embarrassment to America. And what do? They promote people. Job well done. You played your part very well. Here's a promotion. Well, now the chickens are coming home to roost. The ramifications and repercussions of past failures of the United States government and also incompetent on a ridiculous level for decades upon decades, America is now faced with the largest problem it's ever had. What am I referring to? Well, to put it simply in a word, desperation. You see, when people get extremely desperate and extremely hungry, they will literally eat just about anything, including each other. Now, if your family was on the verge of starving to death, to what extremes would you be willing to go in order to get food? Now, some of the things that we're talking about, you need to understand what people are willing to do when they get extremely desperate and extremely hungry, because the global food crisis that has already begun is going to greatly intensify in the years ahead. Hundreds of millions of people go to bed hungry every single night worldwide. And children are literally dropping dead from starvation on the other side of the world right now. Now, you're not going to hear about the numbers in the United States of America. Oh, no. But it's happening in the United States as well. Unfortunately, most people in the Western world don't even realize that this is going on because the corporate media rarely reports on it unless it's happening in someone else's country and not their own. You got war, pestilence, natural disasters, bizarre weather patterns that are really man made because of cloud seeding and geoengineering, which causes historic crop failures, and it's creating a perfect storm for global food production, not to mention the explosions and the setting on fire of major food processing centers across the country. It is being projected that later this year, things will get really bad in some of the poorest areas of the planet, and the long term outlook is even worse. In the United States alone, you have 50 plus million people on some type of government assistance, whether it's welfare or Social Security or disability. That's right. Food stamps, TANF, WIC, you name it. Fill in the blank. When people get hungry enough, they will literally eat just about anything. Did you know that people are saying that they would entertain eating bugs or worms or human feces? Yeah. Why? Because when people get hungry enough, they will literally eat just about anything. Did you know that a team of archaeologists discovered that settlers at Jamestown in the 17th century actually resorted to eating dogs in a desperate attempt to survive? That's right. The first English settlers to arrive in North America ate dogs to survive an extreme period of starvation, according to a gruesome new study. Researchers at the University of Iowa discovered the remains of 16 indigenous dogs at an archaeological site in Jamestown, Virginia, that strongly suggests the 17th century settlers ate at least 6 canines. The remains showed hallmark signs that the colonists had skinned the animals, dismembered their limbs, and removed the flesh from their bones between 1609 and 1617 AD. Now, for many of you, this level of savagery may be difficult to grasp. Sadly, it appears that what the archaeologists found is backed up by written testimony from one of the original settlers of the colony. By the spring of 1610, only 60 of the original colonists were still alive. And George Percy, one of the original settlers, authored an account of what occurred in the wake of the starvation period. Now, all of us at Jamestown beginning to feel that sharp prick of hunger, with no man truly described, but he which has tasted the bitterness thereof. Then, having fed upon the horses and other beasts as long as they lasted, we were glad to make shift with vermin as dogs, cats, rats, and mice. Percy wrote in excerpts of his account called Starving Time, archived by the National Humanities Center. What would you do if you were in their shoes? Would you eat your horse? Would you eat a dog? Would you eat a cat? Would you eat a rat or a mouse? This is one of the reasons that you need to start to open your eyes to the reality of the situation that is in front of you. I don't want any one of you to be in that position. But a global food crisis is already here. More than 1 billion people in Africa already do not have enough food to eat on a regular basis, and 30% of the children on the entire continent suffer from stunted growth. Sounds a lot like the United States of America, when 50 million families are on it. In East Africa, some of those that are starving are resorting to consuming grass and peanut shells. The UN World Food Program, WFP, says that in Darfur, Sudan, there are reports of children dying of malnutrition. The situation is dire. People are resorting to consuming grass and peanut shells. If assistance doesn't reach them soon, we risk witnessing widespread starvation and death in Darfur and across other conflict affected areas in Sudan, said Michael Dunford, WFP East Africa director. In other areas of Sudan, people on the brink of starvation are literally eating dirt. There's so little food in some areas of Sudan that people are taking extreme measures to survive. And in the Al-Layat refugee camp, they are eating dirt. Now, let's give some context, a little bit of context to Sudan. Sudan has a lot of issues and problems, one of which is the despotism that happens there, and a lot of guerrillas are there. And these savage groups persecute other citizens. Like if you don't have a Muslim ID and your ID says Christian or something else, you are marginalized, ostracized, persecuted, and in some cases hacked to bits with machetes. So they have other issues going on there. All right. A lot of people are being starved to death by their own ruling class, whatever group is in power in whatever jurisdiction. The food and resources that people give and donate, stuff coming from the UN or wherever other organization or program, doesn't get to the people because the militia people take it, the army people take it, the guerrillas take it and give it to themselves and let the people starve to death. That's just how it goes. Yeah. So don't even entertain people who saying that it's not a global food crisis, because it is. One 40-year-old man in Sudan says that his wife and children are so hungry that they have been rolling dirt into a ball and swallowing it with water just to fill their stomachs, to keep their stomachs from aching. That's right. A.T.T.A.C, 41 years old, reached the Al-Layat in December refugee camp, but has no work and can't feed the family. At times, they go 2 or 3 days without eating. When that happens, A.T.T.A.C said he watches helplessly as his wife and children dig holes in the ground with a stick, slide their hands in and grab some soil. Then they roll the soil into a ball, put it in their mouths, and swallow it with water. I keep telling them not to do it, but it's hunger, he said. There's nothing I can do. What would you do if you and your family were in a similar position? In West Africa and Central Africa, it is being projected that approximately 55 million hungry people will struggle to feed themselves in the coming months. Soaring prices have helped fuel a food crisis in West and Central Africa, where nearly 55 million people will struggle to feed themselves in the coming months, UN humanitarian agencies warned. The number facing hunger during the June August lean season has quadrupled over the last 5 years, they said, noting that economic challenges such as double digit inflation and stagnating local production have become major drivers of the crisis beyond recurrent conflicts in the region. There's a lot of warfare going on. In areas south of there, widespread crop failures caused by drought have created a tremendous nightmare. Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Malawi each declared national disasters as crops failed in a region where 70% of smallholder farmers rely on rainfall agriculture for their livelihood. Food prices have risen up to 82% in some drought affected areas, while water scarcity has also impacted livestock and destroyed farmland. Now, let's put this into perspective. Understand that there are major Fortune 500 companies in these areas that is sucking up all the water from the people to make their products. So a lot of the drought is man-made because these large corporations suck up all the land, all the water. And then they hire people that are armed with guns and machetes to keep people from coming into certain streams, rivers, lakes, whatever, and taking any of the water. You can be killed or severely injured for trying to attempt to take some of the water because the corporations need it to make their products. Yeah, twisted, isn't it? According to a United Nations report, more than 18 million people are now in need of urgent humanitarian assistance, with food insecurity levels set to increase dramatically during the regular lean season that typically starts in October. This year, the lean season could begin as early as July as provisions are depleted. Now, Africa is doing fine for now, but most of the rest of the continent is in enormous trouble. The good news is that we are facing widespread starvation here in the Western world, but 42 million Americans are on food stamps, and 1 out of every 7 children is living in poverty in the United States. So our problems in the USA are growing as well. Unfortunately, the long term trends that are driving the global food crisis are only going to intensify in the years ahead, and eventually there will be very serious food shortages here in the United States. What will you do when that day finally arrives? We have reached a point where fast food is considered to be a luxury, and the prices of many popular food items have more than doubled. That means they've gone up 100% or more. Our world is simply not producing enough food for everyone, and global supplies of food are going to get tighter and tighter during the very difficult days that are in front of us. You need to understand this, folks. This is real, and this is happening. The stage is being set for the global food crisis, which is also one of the prophecies of the book of Revelation in chapter 6, verse 6. So I hope people are paying attention and waking up because it's getting a little scary out there, folks. You know what it is. The system works if you work the system. Bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. And on that note, I'm out. Smash that like button, share if you haven't already done so, because you never, never know who you may encourage. All right, folks, I'm out. Peace.